Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Couple of Nukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey, and I'm tempted to call this NLU Part 4. So, for those of you who aren't familiar, the Next Level University, the main two figures, a lot of people make it work, right? But the main two figures, Alan Lazarus and Kevin Palmieri, both have been on the show. Incredible episodes. I mean, their stories of what they went through and experienced, their self-development and what they put out now beautiful. And then Alan and his lovely woman Amelia came on the show for a conscious couples kind of themed episode, and we're gonna have them back probably for Valentine's 2026. So here we are with one of the other brilliant, amazing people behind the scenes and front and center. I've actually listened to some of her talks at the Next Level University events, some of the online events. Amy Lenius, so great to have you here, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here too. And I love that you've had the trifecta as well as bringing in Amelia with Alan. They have so much to offer as well. And of course, I'm just so excited and grateful to be on the same shows as Kevin and Alan. I think they do really special work in the world. And I'm just so honored to get to be a part of it and go on shows and coach and do all the things that I get to do through the name of Next Level University that they have built. And what a special platform that they have. And again, like I said, I'm just so grateful they let me hang out with them, honestly. It's been great. And so I'm Amy Lenius. I work with Next Level University. I partner with them and I live in Canada. And so I think I love that about the internet and how we can work online nowadays is I get to partner with a company down in the States. They're quite south from me. I'm in up north in Canada. And so I think that's one really special thing. But I didn't start there. Obviously, I come from a background of women's health, of anatomy and physiology. And I think being able to bring all of that plus combining that with what I have learned at Next Level University and working with Kevin and Alan and the team into everything that we do now has genuinely been such a gift and such a neat thing to be able to do. And I'm so excited to dive into all of those things with you today.
For sure. It's funny. Yesterday I was recording with a gentleman and we were joking about the old saying behind every successful man is a smart woman. So I'm glad that Alan and Kevin have you and of course their lovely significant others. And before NLU though, I want to know who was Amy before that, going way back. I know from just listening to your story and reading through your bio about a fight with chronic illness among a bunch of other stuff. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I would love to. So I got diagnosed with a chronic illness in my late teens, but it started a lot earlier than that. I was really sick for a long time and it was hard to get a diagnosis. So I have a condition called endometriosis. It's a fancy word that's not so fun. And it is a inflammatory chronic pain kind of illness, and it is very much based on female health and hormones and hormone imbalance and stress and things. And so for the first little while it was like, oh well, welcome to being a woman, this is just normal, of course you're supposed to have pain during certain times of the month, and of course it's just a part of this transition of becoming a woman. And I heard that for a really long time until it got so bad that I got taken seriously a little bit more, and I finally got to go see some specialists and see some doctors, and they diagnosed me with endometriosis with an exploratory surgery. And after that, it was nothing but surgeries and medications and specialist appointments and hormone therapies and especially pain medications. And I was in that system and doing that for a few years. And then in my early 20s, I had this moment of clarity where I was like, gosh, I still feel terrible. I still have pain all the time. And now I'm on all of these other medications that I'm pretty sure are giving me side effects. I feel like I don't know my body or what is working and what isn't. So I decided to kind of start from scratch. I decided to safely come off of everything and just see what my body was doing, get to know my body again outside of all of this, and just play around with everything else that was available out there. I myself was in school at the time for massage therapy, so I was getting my own education in anatomy and physiology, and then just everything I was learning through my illness all kind of came together, and I got to just be curious for a while. I got to dive into random things like cranial sacral therapy and acupuncture, and I went to see physios. I went to naturopathic doctors. I just just tried everything because there is so much out there. If you come down with something, if you find yourself sick and struggling, I always invite people to get curious because again, what helped me might not help you, but what helps you might not help me. But there is so many modalities and things out there that can really serve you if you take the time to go explore. And that really changed my life. I found so much support and so much just this wealth of knowledge in these other practitioners, especially my naturopath. So he is the one who helped me fall in love with the word holistic. Holistic meaning that everything affects everything else. He was the first one to talk to me about not just my broken uterus, basically, but my liver, my gut health, the rest of my hormones and how they were cycling, my sleep, my stress, and just started to paint a picture of, hey, your body is in a community. It's a functioning community and everything works together. And that also interacts with your external environment, which is its own community, and they interact and one affects the other affects it. It's like this feedback loop that happens. And so I started just healing from the inside out. I started doing things to honor my whole body, and I started detoxing my environment from not only toxins that affect your hormones, but from stress. And it just, it took time. I know a lot of people like to ask, well, what was the one thing? What was the quick thing that helped you heal and become pain-free? There isn't one. There genuinely isn't one. And you know so much about Next Level University. We're all about the unsexy fundamentals. And I feel like that was the story of my healing as well. It's been years of honing in habits and dialing in my lifestyle. And I've been able to, through doing that, become pain-free from a condition that I was told was impossible to do so. I was able to have two beautiful children after being told I couldn't. And so there is something to be said about fighting for what works for you, for learning to be consistent, and for genuinely taking things like that into your own hands. Yes, it's fun and great to find support and collaborate with others, but at the end of the day, you are genuinely responsible for your health, the knowledge that that takes, and so that taught me all of that. And so once I was having kids, becoming pain free, I was also practicing massage therapy. And I had a really lovely practice around pre and postnatal health and pelvic balancing for women. And we'll start to see a through line here. I love to help women and educate people and empower people with information. And that love expanded when I started to get asked to speak to people, and especially women, about their health and how they can do things at home and in their day to day to support their hormones, whether they have chronic illness or not. Women still need a lot of love and attention for their hormones and their cyclical nature. And so that's how I got into public speaking. And it proliferated from there. I got to speak at some incredible events. I started my own coaching program. I started an awareness program for women called the Peaceful Period Project and just taught them about their cycles. And the amount of women, not only just women though, people in general who don't know enough about how their body works to even be able to support it in a great way is always wild to me because this is the home that we live in. This is the body that we have, the one that we get. And the more we understand about how it works, the better we can take care of it. So I felt really great about that. And that's at the same time where I also started connecting with Kevin and Alan at Next Level University. At first, I was a client. I had a podcast called The Evolution of Mom. And so I worked with Kevin on that. Alan was coaching me in business, and I sent him one of my keynotes that I got to do. And I asked him to review it and give me feedback on my speaking. And he thought I did a really great job. And that's when he asked me to come and be their MC for their live event. Said, hey, what do you think about this? Come down. We'll do this event in person. We would love to have you MC and help facilitate the day. And I was so excited to be able to do that. So I said yes, and everything proliferated from there. I feel like I have a little bit of myself in almost all the departments that we have. I'm so grateful. So we run group coaching together, the three of us. I'm the facilitator of that. I have my own coaching program through them now as well. I help with trainings, with the monthly masterminds. I get to do some incredible things in this space. And like I said at the beginning, I'm just so genuinely grateful to be a part of it because they don't talk about it this way now. But when I first started connecting with them, they talked about holistic self-improvement. And I just heard the word holistic and my ears pinged. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that word. And I love that they're bringing it to self-improvement, that they can get, that you can get better holistically in health and wealth and quality of life and in love. And now we talk more about, we use words like success, and we use words like personal development now, because no one knows what holistic self-improvement means, but it's still, I believe, like the lifeblood of what it is that we do and what we believe in. So it's been an incredible journey, both professionally and for my health. And I just feel like I'm in the best space that I've ever been in all of those categories. And I do owe a lot of that to being in this space.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. One of the things I
There's a
want to
lot.
start
I
with,
know.
yeah, is people want just this polished up instant package. Like you mentioned unsexy fundamentals, right? Because people want this instantaneous fix. Everyone is looking for the quick fix. And that's part of social media culture. That's part of the new mindsets in society, especially with the younger generations. And it's part of what is really destroying us, I feel. I think
Mhm.
it's really important, the holistic aspect. In fact, in a couple of weeks ago, maybe by the time this comes out, it'll be a couple of weeks. Dr. Mark Sherwood came on the show and we talked about functional medicine, and what we focused on was the system. You mentioned that the community, the system. He said so many doctors and so many professionals are isolationists. They look at just the symptoms, they look at just this one piece of the person instead of saying the body is a complicated system. It's probably one of the most complicated systems out there. A lot of organs, so many different cells. Each one has its own specific function. The eye alone has so many small parts that if just one of them doesn't work, your whole eye doesn't work, right? And everything affects something. And I've had a lot of people on the show for hormonal health because hormones play a huge role, right? I mean, people don't realize like you've got a whole chemical lab and chemical distribution plant and system going on inside of you. And I think you mentioned just letting your body naturally go through the process so you could actually see at some point when you were on so many things. And I think one of the biggest issues, one of the things that I truly lament about our society right now is that the pill for the ill society aspect of it, but looking at so many people are just being diagnosed with medication up front, put on so many pills to numb their emotions, to numb certain aspects of their bodies. I really lament the young women, especially. A lot of the young women that I have been in romantic relationships with, a lot of them were on so many different types of medications. And these were young women. I'm talking about when we were teenagers, when we were young adults, on all these different type of medications. And then they were being changed. And I would see my partner have withdrawals and change personalities because of all this and never knowing how their body felt. Their body was always out of whack. And one of the things that really boggles my mind is I've met young women and served with people whose daughters were maybe 15, 16 or younger, and they were getting put on birth control and stuff to stop acne, to stop periods, like it was something so unnatural and ungodly. And I'm not saying periods aren't painful. I've never had one yet, and I don't think I ever will. But the idea of acne is like we become so perfectionist, right? We're gonna take medicine to stop puberty because we don't want acne, because we don't want facial hair, because of this and that. I think we've become so manipulative of our body and so blocking off of natural processes that a lot of people don't even know what their natural state is like. So I really appreciate what you said there with that, because not a lot of people are at that mindset or are capable of doing that because they've just been so raised to push and consume so much medication through social media, through marketing, through even the music. And so I want to take a step back and look at, I appreciate you not sharing the gory details, but I do want to dive deeper into your chronic illness in terms of how it manifested physically and the symptoms and what that was like, because from what I was listening to, it sounded kind of cyclical, like it would follow your menstrual cycle, but eventually became constant, or does it follow a specific pattern?
Yeah, it would. So, yes to everything you just said. First of all, I do believe all of that deeply and was a product of that myself for a really long time, unfortunately. And I think a lot of people still are and still don't know to just ask different questions or to not blindly follow one person who says this is the way. And so I just like genuinely celebrate you and what you're sharing on this show because I think it's so needed. And so for me, it was definitely my periods were very extreme, completely debilitating, very long, very unpredictable. And again, the unpredictability is normal in early cycling women, but it was extreme. It was that moment of, okay, all my friends are going through this as well now. And yes, they're struggling. And yes, it's this different time in life and you're learning something new and it is uncomfortable, but mine was extreme, just so extreme. And I kept looking around, being like, okay, I'm the anomaly here. And so I would go and I would ask for support and say, hey, not only are they so painful and so hard to deal with, and at school, especially you're in high school, oh my gosh. And when things are happening that are painful and just so like profusely happening, and you have to be changing out your period support less than every hour, it's so detrimental, genuinely, as like a young girl in school to have to even deal with that on the day-to-day basis. And then, yeah, I started having lots of pain outside of that. Because what happens with endometriosis is you have these cells that proliferate outside of where they're supposed to. So it's like a benign cancer. It's not a cancer,
Mm,
but it's cells going to where they're not supposed to be going, and they grow and expand. And they can affect your digestive system, your bladder, your nervous system. Like mine affected the nerves in my legs. So I would get these debilitating nerve shooting pains down my legs to the point where sometimes I would literally just collapse and it would be so awkward. Oh, there she goes. But it was very, again, detrimental at times. And I became really sad for a good chunk of time because I was told before I even had my diagnosis, I was just writhing in pain. I was in the emergency room because again, no one was knew what was going on. And I had a doctor come in and without doing any tests, without doing any physical exams or anything, he just said, "Oh yeah, no, you probably if you're having this much pain, you're probably not going to be able to have kids." And I was just like, "What?" With no reason to be able to say
right.
something like that. And that was really sad for me for a good chunk of time when I was just so used to, okay, he's the doctor, he knows. He knows
Yeah.
better than me. And when, like, at that time, you were career planning in school, you were like, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? We're going to write an essay on it. We're going, I was not career driven at all
Mm,
as a teenage girl. I wanted to be a mom. That was the only thing I ever wanted to be and the only thing I ever wrote about on those papers. And then I had someone come in and tell me that that's not possible. And
right.
again, looking back, that shouldn't have been detrimental to me because I should have just been like, well, you don't know. You've looked at me for all of 5 seconds. But when you're
Yeah.
young, these are authoritative people. These are people who've gone to med school who should know more than you, who should know. And so I got really depressed in that for a while until I started seeing other doctors and they said, no, there's still hope for you. There's still a chance. And if there isn't, we'll send you to this specialist. And if there isn't, we can teach you about adoption. If there isn't, there's surrogacy. Like at least other people helped me paint a picture that my life wasn't over for this like deep, this love for this future that I could see of being a mother. And so that it was again, not only physically hard, but when you're in pain and you're still trying to live your life and be a teenager and do all of these incredible things, there's this heaviness that comes to it and this mental load that comes to it. And I used to just fantasize about having something tattooed across my forehead being like, remember, I'm tired and I'm in pain. Don't forget. I don't want to complain about it all the
Right.
time and I don't want to act like it's there all the time. I still want to go out and do all these fun things, but yeah, it was a lot. It really was.
Yeah, it reminds me of my younger sister. She would have her period so bad when it first came, she would throw up, almost black out. She had to go home from school multiple times. So I know it's different for everyone because I've also met
Mhm.
young women who it was like nothing at all happened to them. So the most interesting story that I haven't found a lot of cases of this was my mother actually. Her stepmother never told her what a period was or that she would get it. So my mom just thought she was dying one day. She just went to the bathroom and there's just blood everywhere and pain. And so she thought she was dying for several days because she didn't know what it was. And this wasn't the day and age of the internet where she could just look up, like, what are these things? And sometimes when you look up stuff on the internet like that, it's going to be like, you're dying, you are dead,
Yep, you're
you know?
dying.
Yeah. So that wouldn't have helped. What really spoke to me was the assumption of authority. So we've had a discussion recently on my show about how social media has drastically amplified that in a sense that you have these influencers in fitness and finances and health and whatever else who aren't qualified. Maybe they have lived experience, maybe they have some degrees, but there's a lot of misinformation out there, but
Hmm.
people are just believing them because, hey, the channel looks polished and put together, and or they have degrees on the back wall, or their background looks professional, or whatever it may be. So that has become a huge issue. And then we have stuff like, I feel like a broken record. I keep talking a lot lately about some of these fitness influencers being busted for steroids. I mean, it's terrible. Same with you find out you're comparing yourself to these young model-like women, and then it turns out they're all surgeries. But here you are trying to chase after that. And what I've learned that is so important that I definitely want to teach my children is always strive for self-research, self-advocacy, and second opinions because like you said, we just assume the doctors are right. But I've had so many people on the show who went through some kind of medical situation, and it turns out you're your number one health advocate. No one cares about your
Yes.
health more than you. And I've had my own medical confrontations where doctors didn't want to check for certain things because they're like, well, what are the chances that you have XYZ are very low, even though you have some symptoms of it. And I don't feel like putting through the paperwork or doing this test. You got to push because my thing is like that annoys me more than anything. Like my body, my health, my concern. It doesn't cost you anything extra to put this through, right? Just it's your job. It's your job. But I want to say that too. It goes with parenting, and it's I've written about how what your parents say have a different authority to it. You kind of just believe everything your parents say as you're a kid growing up because they're your parents. They made you. They're supposed to know everything, and they're supposed to be these perfect people you put on pedestals. And so, in some of the religious weaponization that's happened in my life, I actually wrote because people were like, "Mr. Whiskey, why would you believe that you were the Antichrist or that you were spawned from Satan's legion and supposed to be evil?" I said, "Well, if you grow up and your parent is saying that and they're at church every day and they work with the Knights of Columbus and carry a cross, you believe what they say because there's you grow up believing that your parents know everything." And so I've learned that like that self-research, and I think nowadays it's so much easier to do with between AI resources and just the internet and all the books have a spirit of discernment, I always say, because there's so much misinformation and false authorities out there. But I think it's so important to get that second opinion. And my heart really, I can really empathize with you because ever since I was a young boy, all I've ever wanted is to be a father. I don't know how anyone could ever be a deadbeat dad or not want children. I mean, trust me, I know children aren't all sunshine and rainbows. Like there's times where they make you want to pull your hair out. I've seen it, right? But I've always wanted to be a dad, and my biggest fear has always been I go to the doctors and they say you're infertile.
Mhm.
I've thought about that, so I couldn't imagine having a doctor saying that and then believing it. But I'm really glad that you got down the path of saying no and working with that. So with your chronic illness, are there still any remnants of it at all? Or is it have you gotten rid of it or you've just learned to maximize mitigation and management?
Yeah. Well, one, oh my gosh. First of all, I can already tell you're going to make an incredible conscious parent. I think that's wonderful.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
We do need to be critical thinkers nowadays. We do need to be able to filter all of the information that comes through to us. And like you said, we need to be our biggest advocate. When it comes to getting into the medical system and things, it is really important, unfortunately, to be a squeaky wheel and be your own advocate. Because like you said, no one cares for your health like you do. And so that is so important. I have this crazy story that after it happened to me, that was my biggest message to not only myself and to others is that you are your biggest advocate and you know your body best. People can try and guess what your pain is, people can try and guess what it is you're going through, but you know best. I ended up in the emergency room, I think 3 or 4 times in a week, and it was awful. This was after my second son. And they kept telling me, oh, it's just your endometriosis flaring up. So, again, this is a moment where my diagnosis didn't serve me. It labeled me and put me into a box. And I kept telling them, no, it's different. It's a different pain. It's more extreme. I genuinely feel like I'm dying. And on like in the fourth or fifth visit, I had that moment where I was like, what is it to you guys to just give me an ultrasound, run a test, do
Right,
something?
right.
because it's obviously not working. I feel like I'm genuinely dying. It is just so bad. And I luckily got a good doctor that night, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, you have been here like all week." I said, "Absolutely." He's like, "Have they done any tests?" And he's looking through my chart. He's like, "Oh, no, no, they haven't." He's like, "Well, let's get you an ultrasound." They whipped me into the ultrasound, and I was whipped into surgery so fast because I had a cyst burst on the back of my ovary and it didn't
Mm,
close. I was
yeah.
bleeding internally. I was dying. I was bleeding internally and dying. And he said if they had sent me home one more time with just heavier painkillers, I could have died in my sleep. So if I hadn't
Wow.
fought for that, I could have died. So, yes, be your biggest advocate, please. It is so, so important. And to bring that level of, I am not, especially to parenthood, I'm not the authority. I don't know everything. I think that's such a gift we can give our children because a lot of us grew up with, yes, our parents know everything. And so now we're adults and we're like, well, when do I hit the moment where I know everything?
Right.
Where
Still
do I
waiting.
get my adult card here where I know how to do the things? And so sometimes a lot of us feel like we're failing or we didn't do a good enough job or we're not as informed as we should be, when in reality, it's just like, no, this is a new day with a new situation. And so I genuinely tell my kids all the time, hey, this is my first time at this age as a mom of a 12-year-old boy in this scenario. Let's figure it out together. Here's what I think, but let's figure it out together. And the more you can give your kids that you're learning and growing too still, and that when you make mistakes that you can apologize to them because you are not above them, it creates a more beautiful dynamic between the two of you. And so I did just want to touch on those two things that you brought up so beautifully. And now I don't remember the question you actually asked me.
It was, were you able to completely cure your chronic
Yes.
illness, or is it
Okay.
just the maximization of management and mitigation?
Yeah, thank you so much for reminding me. It's it's the second one. It is. I know that if I stopped doing everything that I do, my body would easily go back there. And I still notice if I do too much of certain things, my body likes to be inflamed. It loves that for whatever reason again, and it's probably connected to that part of my body. And so I have to be really conscious of the things I do, really conscious of the things I put in my body, I keep in my environment and don't keep in my environment. But because it's been easily a decade of me doing all of this stuff and discovering what works for me, I have habits and things that I do every day to like honor my hormones genuinely, that I don't even notice our habits anymore because they've just become such a huge part of my identity. So we don't use any endocrine disruptors in my home. If we do, it's very minimal. I'll use the odd, like I'll dye my hair twice a year or little things like that. But as far as like our everyday products, they're all natural, no endocrine disruptors. We take really good care of our environment that way. I'm really conscious of stress and being in stress regularly and making sure that I flow in and out of it. I don't live in a certain
Mm,
state of stress because that tanks women's hormones, especially their progesterone. And with low progesterone, high cortisol, we see a lot of that's a pattern with women with endometriosis. So I'm very, very, I pay such close attention to how I'm feeling hormonally and how my symptoms are. And I can just again, it's been so long that I can say, okay, I need these herbs now. I need this tea lately. I need to be using this oil. Everything I do is either supplements, lifestyle, and natural, which I'm so grateful to say has been enough for me to be able to do with my body. And so, no, I don't. I think if I went back to absolutely not paying attention and to using things that don't honor my body's health and stuff, I think it would come back because I get little pings every now and then, especially now as I'm getting older and that hormones are shifting and we're starting
right.
to enter a new era. I can feel the differences because I'm so tuned in. And so it's kind of like rediscovering what's going to continue to work for me and what needs to shift as my body changes.
Right. And now I want to circle back to, we got a lot of your backstory. I want to get back to the present with Next Level University. You're speaking, you're coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day life, what that kind of looks like, and kind of some of the bigger events throughout the year as well?
Oh my goodness, my day-to-day life is so full with the most beautiful things. And some days, again, it's chaos. Genuinely, it can be, but it's aligned chaos. So, as I have two children, I homeschool my kids. And so I am a homeschooling mom. We live out in the country. It's beautiful. We have pets and chickens, and we live on a dirt road and love to be outside. And I also get to be what's called an entrepreneur in this company. And that is such a wonderful thing. As an entrepreneur, you are 100% in charge. You're 100% tied into this whole thing. Whereas with entrepreneurship, it's not as intense. Like at the end of the day, Kevin and Alan are the founders of this company, and they're the CEO, CSO. We have Christina's the COO, and they are the more of this backbone of what is this company. And I just get to come in and serve and facilitate and help and add as much value as I can. And as I become more a part of this company, I am more becoming more central and part of, again, now I'm this third front face of this company, which is beautiful. What an honor. Oh my goodness. And so the three of us get to do this circuit of front facing things. But in the day to day, one, I love that I get to make my own schedule. I think that's really beautiful, especially with homeschooling and things. But it's a lot to take on because my kids don't go to school. And so they're first for me. So my marriage, my motherhood, my health, and then my work. They're
Right.
such they're such coexisting pieces, and I love that because I deeply believe, like I said, in that holistic being, that holistic life where I can't pretend that my job doesn't affect the rest of my life, that the rest of my life doesn't affect my job. And so I'm very conscious of how they're all doing and how they're all being affected and how they all work together holistically and in a trajectory of growth and love and abundance. And so I feel like I get to have that kind of life that is really not only built for this kind of work, but is valued in this space, which I love. I love that I get to pour into this space, and I feel like the value of the holistic self improvement of success and it being whatever you decide success is. We believe success is subjective. I believe that pours right back into everything that I believe about my life. And so I think, yeah, that's really fun for me, anyways. But on the day to day, as far as work, I get to come on podcasts like this. I love that so much to just have high level conversations with heart driven people. Gosh, that's my favorite. Group coaching, we run a group every quarter. We take 10 people, and Kevin, Ellen, and myself pour into them as much as possible in those 12 weeks. Grow yourself for the first 4 weeks, grow your podcast for the next four, and then grow your business for the following 4 weeks. And we come together really beautifully in that. And that's weekly. I get to run my own coaching program. I have lovely clients right now, mostly women, but I am coaching two men now, which has been really fascinating too. So I get to just have this duality of all of these things, and they flow and harmonize really nicely with the kind of life and the quality of life that I value.
For sure. And then I know Alan and Kevin are also pretty hard on the fitness side, and they have different groups for that. Are you involved with any of the fitness stuff as well, or you have to kind of do your own pacing and a different kind of workout because of your condition?
Yeah, so what I love is I get to bring, so we have that fitness accountability group in WhatsApp. And I mean, these guys, again, a couple bodybuilder bros who are also just so deep
Yeah.
into personal development and growth and healthy relationships. Again, just what a beautiful combination. And what a just awesome example of healthy masculinity and integrous men. And that's why I love them so much. And so they're in there with their bodybuilding and their muscles, and I'm in there like, got to go for my walk today. Who else? Go did my yoga today. And I love that I get to come in and be that because you don't have to be a bodybuilder to be in this space. We just value any kind of daily movement and we want to support people in that. And I have such a heart for it because when I first started working with Alan and he started trying to support me in not only how I mentally felt about myself, but how I was physically doing. I told him, I'm like, no, man, my body is a broken piece of garbage, genuinely. There's no way
Mm.
I can work out every day. And he's like, well, hold on. I'm not asking you to go to the gym and work out for hours. Like, what is your version of that? And he gave me so much permission to do it my own way and to do it small and to do it sustainable and to build. I always went from 0 to 10 in my fitness and then would get really inflamed, really sore, and then be like, see, I suck. My body sucks. Fitness is not for me. When in reality, I was never setting myself up for success. And I needed to start small and I needed to start sustainable and I needed to do it in a way that was adaptable to my life, right? With kids, with pets, with households, everything. Life can be very reactive. And so I needed to be able to fit it into my day. And so with Alan's help, I created a fitness statement that I was going to move my body in an aligned way every day
Mm.
for 30 minutes. And so sometimes, like now, especially that I've built up to it, I lift weights, I'll do yoga, but sometimes it's just a hike with my family. Today, that's going to be the fitness I get in. We went for a hike today. And so it gave me permission to make it what it was and do it in a sustainable way that I've now been able to do it for over 1,000 days in a row.
Yeah, there are times where you talk where I'm like, she sounds like Alan, but much softer and nicer to listen to. Like he's a little more aggressive, but sometimes you say something and I'm like, I swear Alan would say that like word for
Oh,
word. You know?
yeah.
So it's great
We
that
definitely spend a lot of time together, which is
yeah, and y'all learn from each other and build off each other.
yes.
And I like what you talked about the balance with yeah, like so for people, y'all definitely go check out the episodes with Alan and Kevin. Like if you look at their Facebook, they've got all these like muscle pictures and stuff, but they're also very intelligent, very emotional. And my book, God versus Indomitable Human Spirit, coming out soon, it talks about that balance. And it's funny because like I was on Kevin's Facebook yesterday and it's like all these muscle pictures. And yesterday was a picture of him in a shirt that said like cat dads are cool or something. I don't remember. It was like it was about cat dads.
Ultimate cat dad.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny because I have a shirt that says the dog father. And obviously I've got my little princess right here. And
Oh
so
my
I have a
gosh.
bunch of dog dad stuff. I actually have a ugly Christmas sweater and it's just her face blown up on the whole front of it. So, and it says dog dad on it. So I thought that was funny, but I like to follow the sentiment of it's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in war. The reason I work out is to honor God and to serve others and to always be ready in case my body needs to be used to help serve others. So I think it's important to have that balance. And I really, like you said, working out in a way that's aligned with you. I was just talking today with people about how fitness is about self-alignment and identity because fitness isn't just a state of health. You can have someone who is overweight and goes to the gym every day who is fit, and you could have someone who is skinny but smokes and does drugs and doesn't work out and eats terrible. It's all about
Yes.
that mindset and about your pacing. I have a lot of respect for people. I've talked about this. Part of my origins is I was 120 pounds growing up. I was always underweight, really skinny guy, and I lose weight very fast. If I get out of the gym for like 2 weeks, I'll drop like 5 pounds like that. So I
Mhm.
eat a lot. People always just say, eat more, bulk up. I already eat sometimes 6 meals a day. I'm on a protein shake that's like I'm supposed to take through my shake about 4,000 calories a day because I run for about 2 hours straight every other day. So I'm a calorie burner
Mhm.
naturally and physically when I work out and then lifting on top of it. And my thing is I know where I started and where I am now. And so I have a lot of respect when I see people in the gym who are lifting lightweight, who are just pushing the bar. Like I have a lot of respect for them because it takes a lot. A lot of what kept me out of the gym was literally just self-consciousness. I don't want to be that guy who's only got two small plates on. I always had this fear that a bunch of big guys are going to come over and like make fun of me. And reality is not really. Most people will keep that stuff to themselves, but I have a lot of respect for that. And then on the other end, people were really heavy set going in and doing what they can. So I have a lot of respect, and it really is about, I love the way you said it, working out in a way that's aligned with you. And I say that because a lot of us, going back to social media, we're trying to chase these trending workouts or these fitness
Yes.
influencers said to do this or that to get this body type or to get these muscles or this is the one true way. This is the only way. There's people who say cardio is a myth or never skip leg day or you've got all this stuff, follow this workout, do this plan or even take these types of steroids or do this kind of diet. And it's all about alignment. Even with the episodes I've had on diet and eating, one of the guys said it best. It was eat when you're hungry and eat what you want, but understand your body because not every diet is going to work for everyone. But a lot of us hear these buzzwords like intermittent fasting, for example. Your level of what that window of not eating looks like might have to be a few hours. For some people, it might be 3 days. So I think it's so important to know your body, which goes back to what you said earlier, is knowing your body and taking your time to understand your body. And we've put that out in a lot of episodes. In my episode on dancing and healing and movement, she said, people say dance like no one's watching. I say dance to know your body and to feel your
Yeah.
body. And it's the same thing with eating and fitness. And I just love all of that. And so you talked about the coaching. Who should really, what kind of people should be looking to talk to you and try to explore this coaching relationship with you?
Mm. Well, again, I just agree with everything you just said. So much, yes. Getting to know your body is everything. And what is for me is not for you, and what is for you may not be for me. And so when we're seeing these things on social media, like, hey, you should be fasting for 16 to 18 hours a day, this. Well, if you're a cycling woman during certain parts of your cycle, that actually is more detrimental than good.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many nuances that go into that. And so getting to know you, yourself, what works for you, find someone who is of similar lifestyle and like to you, and that's going to be a little better as well. But I see so many women comparing themselves to these women online where it's like, oh my gosh, you should see Amy, you should see these women's morning routine. She gets up, she goes to the gym for 3 hours, she does her sauna, she does her this, and all of a sudden, and I can't do anything. I'm like, well, how old is she? Well, she's like 20. Does she have kids? No. Where's her gym? Oh, it's in her basement of her building. Okay. Is your life the same? No, not at all. So let's even use myself. I look at that woman and say, oh, I suck because I can't do that. Well, I have children. I'm pushing 40. We live in the country. There's not even a gym in my town. I would have to drive 40 minutes to get to a gym. And then I'm
Mm,
trying to say, because I can't have a lifestyle like her, I suck. No. I need to find someone who is also maybe ahead of me. Maybe she's in her 40s. She also has children at home, but she crushes her home workouts. She is fit. She is getting it in every day, no matter what. And she can be someone that I can look up to for inspiration rather than to a detriment to myself. We're constantly focusing on the wrong things and comparing to the wrong things. So, getting to know your body, yes, and learning to compare for inspiration rather than to a detriment is going to serve you so well. Find someone who is of similar lifestyle, age group, sex, and who like genuinely has those similar, even core values as you. And they, one, will never tell you you're not doing enough. They will always encourage you because they're ahead of you. And it's something that you can actually look to for inspiration. As for my coaching, I do attract a lot of women, which is lovely. I get to coach a couple of men right now, which has been really fun. But for me, it's a lot of quality of life. So we have a couple people right now that are doing what we call the works. It's been so fun because it's brand new. We've never offered it really before. And
mm,
now we've had a couple people kind of fall into this thing that is coaching with all three of us. And so we're scrambling to kind of create this thing because we're like, oh my gosh,
right.
people want this. Okay, we can make stuff. We can make it work. And so we have this thing now where you're getting a call every month with Kevin Allen and myself, and they're choosing to also have the podcast that they are on. They're both podcasters produced through the production company of Next Level University. And then they're coaching with Kevin for podcasting, they're coaching for Alan with business, and they're coaching for me with me for personal development, fulfillment, passion, purpose, quality of life, and making sure that they all tie together. And I just thought, oh my gosh, what a unique and beautiful thing that we are just basically experimenting on with these people. But it's so wild to see. And I love that so much that they're getting this well-roundedness poured into their life from the three of us. And so that's been really fun. And I love that kind of dynamic. But just for myself, it's a lot of women looking for a lot of permission. They need permission and validation that the things that they want in their life is good enough or not too much. They need to hear that I want to be home with my children and I want to maybe bring in 500 extra dollars a month, but I want to just have a happy, healthy life and I want to be a good mother. I want to be whatever it is that their version of success is. And they need permission to hear that that is okay and that it's valid and that it's possible. And how can they do that with still passion, purpose, and fulfillment and all of the things that they crave? And then I have other women that come to me where they're like, you know what? I want to build a business. I want to make money and I want to do all of these things, but I don't want to lose the life I have at home, or I don't want to compromise the life I have at home. I love my children. I love my husband. I want these things, but I want more. They feel like they want more. And I I just love giving permission to women to embody whatever success looks like to them and how we can do it in an aligned, fulfilling, purposeful, passion-driven way. And I have so much fun with that. And we always bring in cyclical health to that as well. I can't help it. Like I said, I used to genuinely coach women on their periods and
Right.
stuff and what that looked like. And so they also, again, not only lots of them don't even know that, don't even know that they're these cyclical beings. They only know that they have a period and then they don't. And they're not attuned to the other phases of the full cycle. So you as a man, you're like the sun. Your hormones cycle on a 24-hour clock. So you have your highs and lows and ebbs and flows all within 24 hours. So you're kind of the same every day. Whereas women, we're like the moon. We are slightly different mentally, physically, emotionally every day. And when you
Mm.
zoom out from the everyday and take it week to week, it is noticeably different. So even myself right now, Mr. Whiskey, I am actually not set up for success to be on this podcast. If I was on here
Wow.
2 weeks ago, I would have crushed genuinely. Now I have reps in me. I have the repetition and I have the experience, so it might not come off like I think like I'm doing a poor job. But in my opinion, I actually kind of am compared to what I would have done a couple weeks ago when I was in what's called your inner summer. You're ovulating, your estrogen is peaking right when it's supposed to be. You're more articulate, you're more social, your brain is on fire. Your face is more symmetrical. My face genuinely looks more round and puffy today than it would have 2 weeks ago because I
Mm.
am right on the edge about to have my period. So I'm exiting my inner fall and I'm about to enter my inner winter. And I love using the seasons to describe each one because when you think of summer, you think of swimming, margaritas, beach parties, you're social, you're out there, you're having fun, you want to be outside, you want to be more social, more active. That is what's happening inside of you hormonally. And then fall comes where you want to slow down, you want to have carbs and soup and be more nurturing, more taken care of, but you also are so attuned to your environment because winter is coming. And so the things in your environment that may not have irked you a couple weeks ago now frustrate you a lot because winter is coming and this is not set up for success anymore. So women always get this bad reputation of, oh, she's PMSing this and this, and now she's more naggy and she's this. It's like, okay, yes, but it's she's not wrong. She's just more in a space where she notices the things that are actually not aligned with where she wants to be, or her environment is not how she wants it to be. And she is actually more hormonally set up to express it and to notice it because winter is coming and then she wants to be inward. She wants to relax. She needs to take care of herself. She doesn't need to be going out and acting like she's in summer. She needs to rein it in a little bit. And we don't all have 100% control of our time. So it's not like we can call in sick for work if we're in a 9 to 5 or
Right.
however that looks. But when you understand, let's keep using this podcast as an example. When I can understand that I need to give myself grace today, I can't be like, oh, 2 weeks ago, I crushed. I was amazing. I was so articulate. I didn't have to ask to repeat a question. My brain is just on fire. And I like crap on myself today because I'm not as good as I was a couple weeks ago. It's not, it's not, it's not productive for women basically to be in that mindset. We need to be able to give ourselves grace and understanding. I should not be shaming myself because I'm not as great as I was 2 weeks ago. I'm genuinely not physically, mentally, and hormonally set up to be that kind of version of myself as I am today or was then. So again, right there. Did I say it right? Who knows? I don't, but I would have 2 weeks ago. There's these little things. And so instead of again walking away from this being like, oh my gosh, I suck. I'm the worst. Why was I on
Yeah.
fire last week? This week I feel like a potato. I suck. I'm the worst. It's like, actually, it's kind of normal. It's very normal, it's very natural. And so the more you understand about these seasons and these ebbs and flows, the more you can understand how life is and how you feel and how you show up in it and where it's time to push and be creative. When you're in your inner spring, it's called that beginning right after your winter, which is your period, when you start to come back to life as spring is, that is when if you do creative work, if you can schedule all your creative work in there, like when I'm in Canva during that part of my season, I am just like, oh, these are amazing, this and this. I'm about to do Canva after this. It's going to hurt my brain. I
Mm,
have to do some Facebook work after this. It's not going to be conducive for my brain right now, but I'm going to get it done. But it's not going to feel as
yeah.
flowy and as exciting as it would a few weeks ago. And so bringing that into my coaching, I think is such a gift for women because it's when they're trying to work out, when they're trying to hit their goals, when they're trying to do all of these incredible things, and they don't understand that some weeks those things are really easy. And some weeks they're not as easy. And it's okay to have a version of whatever habit it is that you have for this thing. As we believe in habits, especially daily ones, that's the way, is daily habits. You need to have a check the box version of this habit. You need to be able to do it in a half-ass way where you're still honoring the promise you made to yourself. You're still moving the needle towards the goal that is what the habits are based on, but you cannot be shitting on yourself all the time because you can't give it 100% every day.
I think the part you mentioned about permission is really powerful because right now we're in such a we've described it on some of my episodes as a war zone in terms of there's one side, the other side, and then just no man's land, just empty in between because there's not a lot of compromise and conversations. It's just two opposing opinions. And so in this context of what we're talking about, I see it as you've got a group of people telling women, villainizing being a staying at home mom, villainizing women at home because you have these certain women and certain men who are like, that's not freedom. You are pushing women back in all these different stereotypes and stigmas around it. And then on the other end, you have people who are villainizing being a breadwinning, independent woman. So it's kind of like a lot of young women, I'm sure, are confused. Just like on the male side, you had this whole slew of stoicism, toxic masculinity, being an effeminate man, but being this way and that way. And then there's certain men promoting misogyny and then there's women promoting misandry. So these children who are growing up on social media are getting bombarded from a lot of directions, and then ultimately they end up one side or the other. But
Mhm.
having an independent conversation with you where they can have their feelings validated and expressed and not be bombarded by both sides, and where you're like, what do you want to do? I think that's so important. I think people are so caving into societal expectations. That's a lot of most of the shows I've done on addiction recovery. Where did it start? Societal expectations, fitting in with a group or doing this is such a huge thing. I've had episodes on, and this blows my mind. If a woman who was at a party and she said, "No, I don't drink," and the first question is, "Oh, why? Do you have a problem? Are you addict?" No, I'm just choosing not to drink. Okay, well, you smoke though, right? And it was like, one or the other. You have to do X, Y, Z to be cool. And she was like, why can my answer just not be a no and that's accepted? Why does it have to be there's some kind of preset condition with it? So I think it's important to give women and men permission to maybe like with men, if you want to be a stay-at-home dad and homeschool the kids, there's a lot of mindsets around that, obviously, about being a household
Yes.
husband. So I think it's so important to really just focus on what you want. And sometimes we need a conversation with someone who actually have that point of view because our parents are typically biased, our coworkers are typically biased. It's hard to find a neutral source who will actually be like, hey, yeah, whatever you want to do, and here's how we can set it up for success one way or the other. And so I think it's
Mhm.
important. And one thing I want to ask you is, how can we set up young men and men in relationships to be successful in regard to understanding their women's cycle, understanding their women's health? Is there a certain book that you think is really good at covering that? Is there some kind of video? Is that something you work on? Like, how should men kind of research this? And it's going to be different for everyone because everyone's partner's body is going to be a little bit differently. But overall, how can we get this information to be better husbands and fathers and brothers and all that?
Oh my goodness, I love that you ask this because this is such a beautiful gift that you can give a woman that you love. Genuinely, it is such a thing to be able to understand that this is not a shameful thing. This is not something that should be hidden. It is something that should be celebrated. It's something that is just a part of our nature. And if we have to hide it around you, that just creates a certain level of uncertainty and lack of emotional safety, which is one of
Yeah.
the most important things in a relationship is emotional safety. And if she feels like she can't share these parts of her with you, are you really giving her all you can give as far as connection, emotional safety, and all the things that can be provided by a healthy man in her life? And of course, if you have sisters and or siblings, or even like, so I live in a house full of boys. I have a husband and I have two young boys. They all know. They all know what's going on at all times, because not only does that help them navigate the situation, it gives me so much permission to navigate the situation myself. Even as a mother, it's like, hey guys, this is the season I'm in, and I'm feeling a little, I'm less patient. I'm struggling with patience today. I'm struggling with loud noises today. And mommy was a little short with you there. That is my fault. I'm so sorry. Here's what mommy's dealing with, and here's how I'm going to go support
Mm.
myself. And there's just so many little nuances there. Chris knows when it's time to cook me a steak. Love that. It's one of my favorite things he does for me. He'll hand me one sometimes and he'll be like, it's time. I'll be like, oh my gosh, really? And I'm checking the app on my phone. I'm like, oh, yes, it is. Right before my period hits. If I can get some red meat in me, it just helps me so much. Again, that iron loss, everything, it makes such a huge difference. And he is so tapped into that that he starts cooking red meat for me, even sometimes before I'm too busy to notice what's going on. He can see those subtle differences. But like you said, it's different for everybody. Some women really, really struggle during their actual period. Some women really struggle that week beforehand when their progesterone comes up or doesn't. That's a huge thing. If they don't have that big surge of progesterone right before their period, their mood is unstable and it's so hard to navigate, because when progesterone comes up and in that's it's supposed to, it it counteracts this natural drop of serotonin that happens. And serotonin's a hormone that helps us keeps us stable, helps us be happy and feel good. But it just naturally drops right before our period. But we shouldn't notice, because progesterone is supposed to come in and act like an anti-anxiety. But for a lot of women who have progesterone problems and low progesterone and struggle with PMS, that's an indicator right there. So ask questions. Don't try and hide from it. Ask your lady, ask her questions, how she feels, how this shows up, how does she feel loved in those moments. I just talked about how I feel loved. Hand me a steak. Love that for me. Get my heat blanket. Mommy's going to have a little bit of some couch time. Where's my favorite chocolate? Let's all cuddle together. Let's have a little bit of a down day. We're not going to go do anything crazy and go exert ourselves through me. We're not going to exert me. You're all involved. It's There are so many books. Again, if you want to read a book, that's amazing. Like Period Power is an excellent book. There's one called In the Flow, which is another really good one. But what I come across the most is that actually more women don't know this themselves. They themselves haven't read those kind of books or listened to these kind of talks, and they themselves
Yeah.
are not sure. They just kind of roll with the punches. And I love empowering women with that information, because then it feels like they are more taking an empowered stance and an understanding, and they are acting through their actual consciousness rather than things running unconsciously, and they're just going along for the ride. And so the more permission they have to have a slow day if they physically need it, to be a little more emotional and feel like you are a man who is capable of handling the ebbs and flows of those emotions because you understand them, because you've asked questions, because you've never made her feel like she has to hide it. I think the more curious you can get and just show them that you're a safe space for that, the better off and more loved that she will feel. So as great as books are, and I think there's so many great talks on these things and stuff as well. But ask, just be open to what her experience is and see what that looks like and how you can blend yourself into it.
Yeah, I know for me, if I get sent to the store to buy pads, I'm already at the store. So we'll pick up flowers and food. And having been in a few relationships, I realized that the chocolate's kind of a myth. Like a lot of women love chocolate, but
Mhm.
there's just different like period cravings. Like you mentioned the steaks. I was laughing the whole time internally because I was like, see, it's not always chocolate. You got the whole heating blanket. I've experienced the heating. It's like a little like a bean bag almost. You just throw in the microwave and stuff like that. I've seen some of them are stuffed animals. They got
Yeah.
different ones. But yeah, I think it's important, like you said. And I think one of the things for all parents to know. Now, I plan on homeschooling, so this is already at the forefront of my mind, obviously. But if your kids are in public education, I wouldn't rely on them to educate your daughters. They're not going to tell your men about this at all, number one. They won't tell your boys at this. At least when I went, all that stuff was gender separated. I don't know about
Yeah.
nowadays, but even with your daughter's side, I don't know how deep they go into studies. It's probably going to be very, very shallow. So I think this is one of those topics that you should definitely, as a parent, go over with your kids. And even if they do teach it in school, it doesn't hurt for you to reinforce and to go deeper with it. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. If there are a lot of parents who just throw their kids to public education and expect them to teach everything, and you've got to stay on top of it. They don't teach everything you think they do, and I know just from when I graduated to when my sister went into school, so many things had changed. It's changing constantly, and I think nowadays it's just a big political indoctrination machine, and it's less about education and more about social stuff. But it's so important to be teaching all that stuff, including health. And like you said, there's a lot of conversations out there, podcasts, and I'm sure there's podcasts dedicated to just those topics. So you can find stuff on it, whatever, whoever you connect with the most. But the last thing I want to ask you, Ms. Amy, is that today happens to be, as of today, at the time of recording, today is considered National Daughters Day in America. What would be your message to all the young women if you had one thing you'd love for them to know?
That's really beautiful. Yes, to embody all that in the home if you can, and to lead by example as a dad is so important. There have been just studies after studies, so many studies show that the actions of the father are more implemented on the children, and the emotional safety and emotional regulation of the mom is what is implemented into the children. Like children are so attuned to father's actions, boys or girls. They follow father's actions. And I see now that in my boys, I'll see them mimic how Chris takes care of me during that time. Without being asked, they automatically follow that. It's
Hmm.
really beautiful to see. So if you want to be a conscious man at home and a conscious parent and a conscious partner, it'll ripple down into your kids automatically. So for National Daughters Day, as a young woman, yes, don't just trust that someone is telling you everything you need to know. You need to take this information and dive into it yourself. Like I said, there are so many beautiful books and there's incredible things. We actually, and I don't know if this is, oh, we're kind of talking about stipulations and what's people's version of right and wrong and things. Again, you're going to be a homeschooler. I am a homeschooler. People have their own opinions on that as well. We,
Yeah.
as a homeschool group, just had a period party. It was the coolest thing I have ever experienced. One of the young ladies in our homeschool group got her first period, and she wanted all of us to get together and pour information into her about that. So she had us all over. We all brought lovely snacks. We showered her with gifts that make sense for her cycle. I gave her that book and some essential oils to help with cramps and different things. And she got just lovely gifts. And then we all sat around and were asked what was our greatest piece of advice for a young woman at this time. And it was so healing, not only for myself to witness, but just to watch this young girl and all the other young girls that came, her friends, the other young girls in the homeschool group, they were all so just engaged and excited to learn about this thing. And what an empowering way to start that time in your life rather than it being something so scary, something that you don't understand. Like all the other girls in the homeschool group now can't wait. Are you going to come to my period party, Amy? Maybe we should have this kind of cake. Can you talk about what you talked about there? Because when they came to me, I was like, I have so much to say. I have so much to say about this. But one, your periods are genuinely your fifth vital sign. Your vital signs being like your heart rate, your breath rate, how they tell if you're healthy as a woman. That is such a key indicator of your health. So understand it as much as possible. Understand how that shows up for you. Understand what each season looks like for you so you can leverage it and nurture it as much as you can. And to build your life around being a cyclical woman is such a beautiful thing to do. And the earlier you can start that, the more empowered you are going to be. And so I think just again, self awareness, body awareness, being the advocate that we talked about earlier on is so important. And if you know all the information, you're going to be a more empowered advocate for yourself. So the more you know, the better life can be.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think of such a contrast to what I shared earlier with my mom was alone, isolated, didn't know what was happening, to this celebratory kind of event with knowledge and community, and what a difference it is just hearing those two stories. So I think it's so important. And I love what you said about leading as a parent and the children will follow. I think that's so important. A lot of what we're fighting all over is generational. It's just passed down because we copy and copy, and we're getting to a time of revitalization and renewal where people are changing and making change and then implementing that into mentorship and parenting. So I think that's so important. And in the description below, we're going to have your website, which is also going to take people to the next level university where they can check out a whole slew of resources, including your stuff. And I really appreciate your time today. I think you did amazing. So whatever season you are in, I think it was a season of abundance because you shared a lot of knowledge and it all came across. And I really hope that people took something away from this, whether they're a father or a mother or a young woman or whoever they may be, someone in a relationship. I hope that this was helpful, not just for period health, but for self-development, parenting, and for all the other topics we hit along the way, fitness even. So I really appreciate you and just your vast wealth of knowledge that we were able to cover so many topics and interloop all of them together.
Well, thank you so much. That's the sign of a good host as well, who can pull out all of that greatness and who can facilitate such a great question, like conversation and ask such great questions. So thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Sailing through the ocean blue, nuclear reactors my crew, guiding the ship, the stars as our guide, through the waves we ride. Jokes and laughter fill the air, on this voyage we have to share, working together, side by side, as one family we will abide. In the heart of the ship we reside, nuclear operators with pride, powering the vessel with every stride. Our mission, a source of great pride.